services. I would guess that not all of them are going to have this memorized, but all of them are going to know that first line, which is we share the Zingerman's experience. And that's what we come to think about all the time when we're on the phone, when we're talking about food, when we're talking even to vendors and people I'm not going to buy from. I'm still trying to share a Zingerman's experience. Good food, let's even say great food, great service, and great finance. Now, in the food department, we define that, and we basically think if we're not hitting and successful on all three of these, we're not going to be successful. If our food tastes bad, people are going to stop coming, right? If our service sucks and our food's great and we're charging the right thing, people are still going to stop coming. And maybe this wasn't even true 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. But our whole culture, not just in Ann Arbor, which is a very food-friendly and restaurant-friendly town, but really across the country, has embraced artisan food, has embraced quality over quantity. The rumor, the legend, was that Maggie Bayless, who's one of the managing partners of Zingerman's Zing Train, followed around who at the time we all considered to be the best service person, which really was splitting hairs in the 90s when it came to Zingerman's Deli. But her name was Deborah Dickerson, and she was the mother hen of all the deli and all Zingerman's, and the kind of, what do you do? Well, how do you give such great service? She's like, well, I just get what they want. And I'm like, well, I find out what they want, I ask them what they want, and then I get it for them. And that seems very rudimentary and simple, but this is literally the kind of Rosetta Stone of information that has been able to employ 800 different people in all walks of life, talking to customers, not talking to customers, that all treat each other according to these simple steps. So the first thing, find out what the customer wants. And in Zingerman's, we do this with a little bit of style. Now, it's not all the same style, but we encourage everyone to have their own style. And mine, as you can tell, is a little bit more theatrical. I've been to Italy, so I talk with my hands. But the way you engage in someone isn't, hi, what can I get for you, sir? Or, oh, can I get you anything? Right? You think about going to the Gap, right? Can I help you today? No, just looking. Okay, great. Because that's the easiest answer in the world to give a, no, I'm all set. And if you don't want to interact with customers, it's a great way to seem like you're being really nice and then get out of work. So oftentimes, every time, the way that we engage a customer has got nothing to do with trying to sell them something. Can you believe the snow out there today? Thanks for coming in, man. I can't believe you braved it. You look like you're local. Can I get you a coffee or tea or something while you're stopping around? You could take your coat off. But the idea is to engage, right? And even when people call us on the phone, the first question out of our mouth is, what do you want? You want a place? Hey, how are you today? I'm Brad. Welcome. Thanks for calling. What's going on? Bakehouse, creamery. Doesn't matter what business, retail, the roadhouse, restaurant. This is how we follow. We engage to find out what the customer wants. And if the customer wants nothing, great. This is going to be the best nothing you ever had then. I'm going to make it right here. Now it says the second step, also trailblazing, is to get it for them. All right, and then we've broken that out with a little bit of caveats, accurately, right, politely, and enthusiastically. Now we say enthusiastically, I've been around, we take all these clues and all these cues, and that's when I say appropriately. I'm not going to ask the guy who's either coming to or going to a few, right? So appropriately, but as a default, enthusiastically. Be happy. And then the third step is go the extra mile, effort. And I think a lot of people initially think that means giving something away for free. Right? Initially, when people start, we define it by something the customer is not expecting. It doesn't have to have any dollar value, but it has a value to the experience. That experience, that extra special secret, means something. It makes people feel like they're insiders, like they're part of the crew, right? You guys ever heard of that third place in your life? Have you ever heard this talk? There's the first place, which is your home. The second place is where your work, where you go to work. And that third place is where you choose to spend your time, where you want to spend your free time. Right? For us, we constantly, even the website, even my website, even when people call, we consider that people choosing the third place, they're choosing us. Let's think about that with the deli. It's a third place. There are people that go there 4 times a week and they bring their laptop and maybe they spend $3 on a coffee and they're there for an hour and a half. And maybe every 3 weeks they get a pastry. But my God, that person is That's what you want in your business. You want those people that choose you to spend their time. This is kind of one of those ways we get there. This is mentally the hardest thing to do. Mentally, it's challenging. Getting people what they want is physically challenging. Figuring out what they want, that might take a little bit of maneuvering. That takes some work. But this tests a person's mind, because you have to understand that person and what it is they might think is special. Right? It could be even telling them about. Right? Our reputation is almost based on how we fix problems when things go wrong. And while this is perhaps the scariest experience for people that are new to a job, when someone's been doing it a long time, these are the kind of challenges we relish. Because getting someone from angry to happy in the service world, well, there's nothing fun. And when they do, we have these 5 steps. The first thing being acknowledge the complaint. And step 2, sincerely apologize. I am so sorry that happened. And I am. I'm literally sorry that you've had this experience. And I always put myself in that place. Everyone's got a bad service experience, right? We all are probably Comcast members. So. All right, so we all know what I'm talking about. And if you're like me, before you make that call, I'm going through all of it, right? It's like I'm loading up ammo for this verbal fight that I'm expecting on the other end of the phone, right? And I always think of that whenever a customer would call us, and you could tell, right? They had to get themselves ready for it. And then they launch in because they're ready for a fight, and they're disarmed. Because oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. Oh, I'm so sorry. And they're like, yeah, and it was hard, and it wasn't supposed to be. No, it really wasn't. You're absolutely right. I'm really sorry. Yes, and it's not supposed to be hard. Yeah. But there's an important part about not doing this in this series, right? The first step is always the first step, and the second step is always the second step. But then, you might have to do a little remix. You go step 1, step 2, back to step 1. Now back to step 2, back to step 1. And the only thing that doesn't really appear in here that I think is incredibly important is to let that customer go at their own pace. Right? Now, I'm talking about a lot of different experiences. I'm going to reference mail order because that's what I'm very familiar with being over the phone for the last 15 years. But let's talk about being in front of someone. Right? You ever seen that face? Anyone ever waited tables or had anything? Right, you see you dropped off that burger, you're just checking, you're walking by, and you see they're like, our instinct is to say, I'll let someone else handle that. But if we see that face and we beeline over and say, is everything okay? I can see something's a little off. This isn't exactly, let me take care of it, right? Let me take care of that right away and get something worked. I didn't want to deal with it. But because I broached it, then everything's really going to be fine. Now, if I didn't and came back 5 minutes later and that burger still has 1 bite out of it and that face hasn't gone away, the whole affair is over. Now we're digging out of a hole. But if I saw that face and I can get there now, if I can acknowledge the complaint right away, because that's what I want to do, I want to get into this, then I can stave it off. Also let's talk about being face-to-face with them. Zingerman's Deli, if you've been, there's cheese cases, there's meat cases. There's barriers between us. There's counters. If someone came and had a problem, the first thing to do is to get around that barrier and be literally side by side. And if it's something that they tasted that they didn't like, then we will stand side by side looking at it. And while it seems like a small thing, physically being on their side deflates the whole situation. Now they realize they're not fighting you. You're there as their help, as their support. You're the one that actually knows how this whole system works. So you're going to help them. You're a Sherpa through this problem. And it's not going to be a problem by the end because we're going to fix it. And I think that's when you're going back and forth between that 1, that 2, as someone that knows so much, I know the solution. I want to get to the solution. I don't want you to be unhappy anymore. And I can save you from being unhappy, but I have to let you get there. I have to let you, when you're ready to move on to the solution, I will be ready. But I really want to get you there because I know what to do. I know how to fix it. So we have to be patient. We have to let them fire the ammo, get it off their chest, say everything that they were prepared to. Because even though you want to be good, you want to give service, you want to really solve it, if I'm interrupting them, I'm not cutting them off, then I'm not listening. I will also say if anyone has a business where there's a front line and a supervisor and a manager, if a problem goes up the line, it is incredibly important that that person, that customer, never has to say the story again. Think about our phone tree with Comcast. Here's my problem. Oh, okay, well, let me get you in touch with Gear Drive. Hi, how can I help you? Well, I just explained it all to Phil, but let me tell you again. And you know what? Not making me happier, right? So as a service provider, whatever you're doing, if it's an account that everything got effed up, and they want to talk to the manager, they want to talk to the owner, you're the one. You're their advocate. You take that complaint up and say, here's what's going on. Here's what happened, because that person should never have to repeat the trials and tribulations they just had to go through. Oftentimes, working with a customer is something, too, to find out what it is that they would like to have happen. Now, again, we know the system, we know what all the tools are, we know what we can do, and they don't. But if we go back to our 3 steps about finding out what the customer wants, that's what we're doing. We're finding out what they would like to make this problem better. Everyone was happy. Thanking them. Thanking them is a tough one to swallow, I think. It feels like it's out of place. I mean, they complain, why am I thanking them for yelling? Well, even 20 years ago when this all came about, the old adage was, if someone has a good time, they'll tell 3 people. If something goes wrong, they'll tell 10. And then this Facebook came along, and Instagram, and Twitter. And instead of telling 10 people, they can tell 10,000, 1,000, like that. Right? So we thank people for complaining for many reasons, but the most important is that they gave us a chance to make it right. They gave us a chance to stop that from happening. They gave us a chance to keep them as a customer. The easiest thing in the world for any customer to do, unless you're with Comcast, is to not visit that business anymore. Right? No one's here from Hunter House, right? That burger, obviously good. I'm never going there again. It was a gamble. I lost $2.69 because I left the sandwich out, but the way they treated me about it, I'm done. I don't ever need to go to you again. And they don't have to go to Zing's anymore. Literally, they don't. They can go anywhere in southeastern Michigan and find really amazing food. So when I thank them, when we thank them, when any of us thanks a customer for complaining, that's what we're thanking them for. Thank you for giving me a chance to keep you. You could have easily never come back again, told a bunch of people how bad it was. And even if that didn't really resonate, I would have lost. You would have been gone. And who knows how many other people you would have told us about. We're talking about marketing here. Those are the best marketers, right? Those customers, those clients that love what you do, they tell everyone. They found you. You're their secret. They want to share the world. So that's why we thank them. And then finally, the last thing we do is document the complaint. And it's somebody's job to compile all of the mistakes and all of the complaints across all the different Zingerman's businesses to see if they can spot any trends, and they do.